it's the off-ramp, though, so that is keeping all of the regular lanes open. However, understandably, this is going to slow people down. You can't stop but to take a look at all of this activity. I'm not even going to try to count how many units are out here, because we're going to put it at about 100, probably more. There's just so many officers that are on scene. But perhaps that is the LAPD tactic today, is make our presence known, let people see us out in full force, and making these arrests swiftly and quickly. And perhaps we won't see some of the violence that we saw downtown last night in the LA area. Absolutely. We are seeing arrests take place a lot quicker and a lot earlier in the day. And I think in part that is because what we've witnessed over the last few days is as the sun goes down, that is when you get the people out here who aren't out here for the cause. They're out here to create chaos. And I believe that that is what LAPD is trying to take care of today, is try to make these arrests earlier in the day to try to prevent some of the
We begin once again with breaking news here at 5 o'clock. Tensions flaring again in downtown L.A. as anti-ICE protesters take to the streets. This is the 5th straight day of this. About an hour ago, they got onto the 101 freeway. You can see the freeway is back open.
A lot of law enforcement presence right there. Take a look at the view from the ground when that happened on the freeway. Video there on the right, live pictures on the upper left. You can see CHP mobilized quickly to move those protesters off the freeway. Not a repeat of what we saw this weekend. The confrontation shut down traffic for about 10 minutes. At the moment, traffic is flowing.
Good evening. Welcome to Fox 7 News at 5, simulcast on Fox 11 and Fox 11 Plus. I'm Alex Michelson.
And I'm Christine Devine. Here is where things stand at this hour in Los Angeles. A Marine battalion is here in Los Angeles, but is not yet engaged near protests. The 700 Marines were sent from 29 Palms to aid some 1,700 National Guard already on the ground, but 4,000 are being deployed statewide. Governor Newsom filed an emergency request in federal court to block the Trump administration and use of the National Guard and Marines, but a federal judge has denied that.
At least for now. They may get a hearing on that later. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is revealing the cost of all this. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the deployment of Marines and the Guard will cost at least $134 million. LA Mayor Karen Bass has called for ICE raids to end. That's not the plan, according to Hegseth, who says immigration enforcement could last for 60 days, and things could escalate further, with President Trump suggesting he's open to invoking the Insurrection Act. Today, he used some heated rhetoric in his speech at Fort Bragg, calling L.A. protesters animals and a foreign enemy.
On Monday night, protests did turn violent. We saw more vandalism, violence, and there were 96 arrests, according to the LAPD.
So protests against federal immigration enforcement heating up again. We're going to begin our coverage of it right now.
Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf joining us live from the downtown LA area again with the latest. Matthew?
Yeah, we're right now on the police line where protesters have been out here all day long. We're at Alameda and Temple Street. You can see there are some protesters kind of taking a break right now over there in the shade, but the majority of the ones that were here actually went that direction at least a few blocks. They've been kind of bouncing around where we are right now. But Sammy, if you want to just flip and show the massive line of LAPD cars out here, we're seeing so many police officers. There's just a giant change of what we've been seeing the last few days. Police departments from all over the area out here, as far as Devonshire Division for LAPD. And if we flip it this way, this is where we're outside the federal detention center. We saw at least 30 people get arrested. They got a little bit too close, and there was a little bit of a face-off earlier today with members of law enforcement. You can see that LAPD bus. Again, at least 30 people arrested there. And then as tensions were building here, more and more people left this scene and went over to the 101 freeway, blocking portions of that freeway. There's currently a standoff in place between protesters at that scene and members of law enforcement. But at this point, it seems like people are just kind of bouncing around. These protesters haven't really figured out exactly where they're going to go. It seems like there's also just this overwhelming force of police and members of law enforcement out here. Definitely right now, it seems like members of law enforcement are outnumbering the number of protesters that we're seeing in downtown. I'll go ahead and send it back to you.
So, Matthew, it also is striking the body language is different today as well.
Yeah, completely different, much calmer, right? I mean, there's not really that sense of energy that we were feeling at this time yesterday where you could feel like something was going to happen. I mean, if we can just pan and look at the majority of the protesters on the block that we're seeing, they're kind of just standing there, looking around, hanging out in the shade. There's some signs and stuff, but for the most part right now, it's fairly quiet, at least where we are here at Alameda and Temple.
So, Matthew, also, we know there are fewer protesters out there today. The scene that you were showing with that police bus and hearing about the almost 100 arrests by the LAPD, people who are wondering what's happening to some of these people that are especially committing the violence. What do you make of hearing of about 100 arrests?
Yeah, we actually have an update on that. According to sources, we're hearing that at least 130 arrests so far today, and that's almost as many as we've seen the previous 3 days combined. So law enforcement out here definitely making their presence known, and just a major shift from what we've seen the previous days.
And some arrested today as part of their peaceful protest. There's a long history of that. People that are being taken into custody as a statement, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the people that are choosing to be arrested, to make that statement for political reasons. We're not exactly sure, I'm sure that there were portions of people in this crowd that were taken away in the bus that were arrested, you could say, by choice, but there were definitely some that it was not their choice. They had a little bit of a face-off with police that might have gone a little bit too far.
Well, as we are looking at your live shot there, I couldn't help but notice all of the graffiti behind you. And I'm thinking as people around the nation watch Los Angeles, as they have been for 5 days now, you can't help but take notice of the destruction and the damage there, just the graffiti alone.
Yeah, sorry about showing that graffiti, but there is just, it's hard not to because there's so much of it. It's everywhere. We won't pan and show it, obviously, but it's pretty much all the blocks. You see the F word and you see ICE, a lot of derogatory language. You see vandalism, benches that are torn up, concrete sidewalks that are torn up. Yeah, it's tough to see.
Are you seeing more cops out there than protesters?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So far today, I mean, look at this massive line. This is all LAPD right here. And then if you, it's even on the next street over, and we've been seeing them kind of driving all over the blocks. You'll see them with their sirens on, as well as California Highway Patrol with them. Just a massive show of force today. Definitely, it seems like the protesters are on the move, and the police departments out here are not letting them really gather in one spot too long.
And just noting, as we see all those officers there, so many of them in those long sleeve uniforms, just noting it's a bit warm out there this afternoon.
Yeah, it is a little bit warm, and a lot of these police officers are putting in just massive amounts of hours. All these officers working overtime. You're talking about 12-hour days, but also some of them working much longer than that, as much as 20-hour days. So they're feeling it. It's been a long few days for them. It's been a long few days for the protesters as well, and maybe that's why so far tonight it's a little quieter.
That's all expensive too, if you think about it. We know this cost for the military apparently $134 million. We know LA's in a big budget deficit. Sometimes when we see these, and we've covered these for so many years, there's a moment when the quote-unquote fever breaks, when things start to go in the other direction. It seems like we may have hit that moment. Last night may have been the end of it, but the real test, Matthew, is what happens after dark when the Antifa folks and all those folks come out. Last night they were allowed to basically do whatever they wanted, and then at the end of the night some of them were arrested. Still got to see what happens on that front tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point. And don't forget, too, I mean, there were people that were trying to take over the 101 freeway about an hour ago. So there are still people trying to make their presence known in the downtown area tonight for this protest. But it definitely seems like law enforcement is on top of it, and they have the numbers right now to put an end to it pretty quick.
Well, you heard LAPD Chief Jim McDonald talk about how they really can gauge how protests ramp up when there's an incident or situation. And he said it takes 2 or 3 days, and that would have put it at Sunday for those 2 or 3 days. Of course, it being a weekend allows many more people to make their voices known, get out there, protest, and also people, as you say, the disruptors and those instigators and things like that. But really, this show of LAPD force in this pretty much same area where people have been showing up, which is near the federal building and that 101 freeway, quite the statement if you're planning to show up as a protester or to do some damage. Quite a statement, right, Matthew, by police?
Yeah, I mean, if you come down here right now, you're going to be met with a large, overwhelming police presence, and it's going to be tough if you're trying to cause issues to do that tonight, because even just walking around the town right now, you'll just see police driving by, lights and sirens on. Even driving by just this intersection where we're standing by these protesters, we've been seeing them whip around here with the big buses as well. I mean, it just seems like they want to make their presence known to deter any more issues this evening.
Yeah, Matthew Cedar.
And then there's this.
Thank you for that reporting. And we look at these folks now marching in the streets as their protest continues. That though is part of a protest for a lot of people. I mean, as long as that it's just sort of peaceful marching through the streets, obviously that messes up traffic, but that's not nearly as destructive as some of the behavior that we've seen in the last few days. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and also want to see what's happening in Orange County as well, where local leaders are condemning what they are calling authoritarian fear tactics brought on by ICE and Homeland Security officers. This was what it looked like earlier today. This is in Santa Ana after some violent clashes last night between protesters and some of the law enforcement out there.
We had that live on our nighttime newscast. Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez has been out there all day taking the temperature as tempers did flare up last night. Christina.
Yeah, right now we're at McFadden and Bristol, and let me get out of the way because the people who are beginning to gather here and they're just arriving, they're coming in from the Civic Center, from downtown, where you have the National Guard tanks and the setup there. So they were having rallies there, and people were trying to continue business in that area. All that in the middle of this, we had a bunch of protesters from the other side show up as we were talking to a woman from a pawn shop, and let's just listen to what it's like to have to deal with this as it's all going on and try to do business. Listen.
USA! USA! USA!
Did you ever imagine, algún día se imaginó que iba a tener al National Guard in front of you?
Never. This is the first.
The American people are waking up!
Came to get some lunch and
You couldn't?
couldn't, no.
We are going to establish law and order.
Is it changing how you do things to see all the images of, like, you were trying to come here for lunch, but
Right. Yeah, it does. It does.
in what way?
It does only because I feel like it's, you can't go to your local places.
This is the United States of America!
We have employees that, need to feed their families. We have a lot of people that come here to get paid to feed their families. And, if we're to close, if we are 1, 2, or 3 days, it's a huge impact for the employees that we have here. So.
Aside from the protests going on in front of you, are you also finding employees afraid to come to work because of the raid?
You know what? It's intense. It's not just here in Perla, but just in downtown in general. Whether you are legal or not legal, I think even the people who are legal are afraid to come out. I don't think it's a matter of a document. It's just, you see police, you see, the Marines out here, you see police, and you just don't want to be outside.
It's so frustrating and it's so unbelievable that I don't even have the words for it. It's just so...
Still trying to process this.
Honestly, yeah, because I know from here, this is just the beginning. I know things are going to happen from here. This is only the beginning.
And I want to emphasize at this point, the only business that's really being affected by this whole thing after the stuff last night are the ones downtown. All of Santa Ana continues operating just fine. But talking about the issue and how angry they are about it, our Orange County politician, 2nd District Supervisor Vicente it, it's not so bad, but of course we're going to have to see what happens later on. But generally, the situation here, people have been very peaceful, and we'll keep our eye on it. They're just making their voices heard. I'm Christina Gonzalez, live in Santa Ana. Back to you guys in the studio.
Noting Santa Ana being in Orange County and maybe not Dodger territory, or maybe. But anyway, Christina, we were on the news last night with the protesters pretty late into the night there in Santa Ana. We also talked about there being an ICE raid or two in Santa Ana and surrounding Orange County areas. What are you hearing about that, ICE operations there?
Yeah, I mean, the people that we talk to are telling us that they've had several raids out here, and that is what's bringing out people to the streets. And they've been going on for a while, and they're expecting more. And the reality is that, as you see, let me get out of the way again so you can see some of these people. One of the things we are hearing from people, and not only here, but in LA everywhere, is that they were told by their politicians that this is a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, and that they would be safe. And the reality is that they're seeing people being picked up by federal authorities. So as much as local authorities are trying to do what they can, the reality is that they can't, at least not the local authorities, stop those raids because they're federal. So people are saying, well, can anything stop it? And it's a question we're asking the politicians. What can they do? And the
Community.
Yeah, Santa Ana is a huge community, not only for Latinos. I may add, we're in Orange County. There's a huge Asian population out here. We actually had quite a few people asking us, have you heard anything? You know, because there's a lot of people afraid other than Mexican Americans or Latin Americans. But the population here is highly why the businesses, but we do have fireworks, that's what those are, and they happen quite often. We're getting kind of used to them, but at this point the businesses were not targeted like they were in Los Angeles, and hopefully that will remain the case here. That's what the protesters are hoping themselves for.
Well, we also did see the Santa Ana Police Department out there in force. We saw several people being detained on our air as well. And also we had the Sheriff's Department from Orange County that was there also. So I know we've been covering a lot of Los Angeles in our coverage in the past 4 or 5 days. But when we got to Orange County there, we got to see Orange County there kind of, you might say, in action and what was happening there. But there was a heavy police presence. Do you know about that, Christina?
Well, like the woman was saying, the owner of the pawn shop, I don't think this is going to get better before it gets worse. At least that's her perspective and many of the people here. If the raids don't stop, is what I am being told by people out here, these things are not going to stop. So we'll have to see what happens, because
in Los Angeles.
But it's not totally over. Newsom, of course, is calling the deployment illegal. He says President Trump is turning the military against its own citizens. So the judge has scheduled a Thursday afternoon hearing on California's request for a restraining order. President Trump spoke about the immigration protests today at Fort Bragg, telling the crowd he will liberate L.A. from, quote, foreign enemies.
What you're witnessing in California is a full-blown assault on peace, on public order. and a national sovereignty carried out by rioters bearing foreign flags with the aim of continuing. You know what? They have it in Europe, too. It's happening.
The president also called L.A. a, quote, trash heap. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, also weighing in on Governor Newsom's actions.
Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered, I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to, he's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected, but assaulted. This is a serious problem.
Newsom the other day told me that Johnson is a joke and not taken seriously. Johnson says Newsom should do his
It's not like it's particularly windy around Burbank right now, and the humidity is between 40 and 50%, which is not especially dry at the moment. There's actually 2 fires we're tracking.
Copy that 1 minute out. Okay, copy. Copy. It is, Carolyn, but this group didn't even come from that area originally. My pilot, Sargar Betian, heard from the police ship overhead that this group was all the way down at Main and 4th, but now they are making their way to that area where the dispersal order is in effect, so they're getting that much closer here to the federal courthouse. They're currently northbound on Los Angeles, coming up to Temple. That's Temple right there. Very large group here. It's a couple hundred people, and if they continue in this general direction, they will merge with the other group. There's the LAPD chopper that we were talking about. There's no police units following this group, either trailing them or in front of them, but you do have that airship overhead, so he's keeping a watch on them. If he feels like he needs to reroute some of the units over here, he will, but at this point it hasn't been necessary. The group has been peaceful, all things considered, walking in the street. We haven't seen any sort of active vandalism. They continue to march here northbound on Los Angeles, passing by the front steps here of the courthouse, which you see is protected here by members of law enforcement. And then as they continue to trek along here northbound, we'll see if they stop in front of the courthouse or continue toward the 101 freeway, but currently passing the courthouse in the direction of the 101. That's an excellent question, Michael. I'm going to move over to the 101 freeway to see where the nearest officers are. see the group gathering there. This, of course, has been a focal point here over the last few days. The Roy Ball Federal Building, where likely some of the detainees from Friday's raids were detained, at least initially. And it looks like that is going to be the site of a protest here that is going to be taking place here. Kicking off right now with several hundred people taking to the front steps here of the building. Copy. Copy that. Hana Talmander. Yeah, go ahead. Oh. Okay, copy that. Okay, copy that. There you go. It's growing, Michael, and they're on the move. They did head toward the front steps there of the federal building, but then they seem to have regrouped, and now they've decided to go back north on Los Angeles and westbound on Temple. Where their final destination may be, that is unknown, or if they're just going to circle downtown here for a while. But the group is large and continues to grow. Most of the demonstrators are on foot, but we do have some people that are in a caravan behind them in vehicles, and in front of them we noticed we did have some folks on bicycles. So different forms of transportation here that are participating as part of this demonstration that is taking place here. An unplanned demonstration, of course, and an unlawful one at that. So at some point the dispersal order could be repeated for these folks. They weren't in the area when it was originally dispatched. This group actually came from Maine and Fourth, was where we first heard about them, and they made their way over to the federal building, but now they continue to march here, currently headed westbound on Temple, crossing over Maine. yeah, they can try to block them in if need be. You saw the airstrip there in our shot. That's LAPD. They're monitoring everything from up above. At this point, it seems like law enforcement feels pretty comfortable about just letting the marchers continue to walk here through the streets because, again, they haven't really stopped anywhere long enough. They haven't committed any act of vandalism that law enforcement has been able to witness. So as far as I can tell, they're just marching here through the streets, so they feel pretty comfortable about letting them do that. So they haven't had to reroute any resources this way. But again, that airship does have eyes on them if they feel that the situation changes and that they need to bring law enforcement here to either make them disperse or block them in or.
So exactly who are the people ICE is arresting in these raids and just how?
But for now, the crowd continues to move westbound on Temple. They just crossed over Main. The next intersection here coming up is Spring. And if you're familiar with the area, you know that that means that we are right outside of LA City Hall, continuing to trek to the west. So if and when that happens, then there will be a set time, of course, when it will be in effect. So anyone who is in violation of that curfew during those hours would, of course, run the risk of being detained. Part of the problem, of course, is that there's a lot of people like you and me who work at nighttime, and so there's a chance that some people who are simply just trying to get to work or trying to get to school, let's say, may be in violation of that curfew without really intending to do so. So that's always a possibility with these types of situations. Okay. Sorrow, they want us to leave curfew. Assignment desk, we're clearing out curfew.
Thank you, thank you. Is there weather coming in? Really? Okay. Grant Park? Yeah, it looks wide now. Just give me an idea. You're looking at, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Where are they going? Those guys. No, the cops going the wrong way. Code 3, wrong way. Show me the group. Grant Park. That's right, Michelle, continuing to keep an eye on a large group of protesters continuing to make their way through downtown LA. They have just passed Grand Park, where there is a vigil scheduled later on this evening. I presume many of them will be returning to Grand Park, but they appear to be moving further down on First Street near Hill. You can see a large group behind these buildings and under the trees. I would estimate in the neighborhood of 300 maybe even a little bit more as they just march through here. Right now, no interference by LAPD, but of course the police department is keeping an eye on the situation. Reporting live from Air 7, I'm Chris Christie, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. We must be coming up on something. What's the next maintenance? Oof. When? What? How much more? Do you know? I'm sorry. Say it again. Oh wow.
Just got this in. Take a look at this. This is breaking news right now. Governor Gavin Newsom says what we're seeing in Los Angeles goes far beyond Trump's call for deporting criminals. It's a step toward authoritarianism. It's our democracy at a crossroads. He says, watch live at 6:30 p.m. local time. So in about 45 minutes' time, Governor Gavin Newsom will address what he is calling democracy at a crossroads. This after his administration lost today in federal court. Remember, Newsom and Attorney General of the state, Rob Bonta, wanted an immediate emergency but temporary restraining order on the deployment of Marines to California. They didn't get it today. A federal judge denied that, though hearings on the merits of that will take place Thursday afternoon, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Newsom's request for an immediate restraining order on Trump deploying the military in Los Angeles, but sets a hearing for 1:30 p.m. Eastern. For all of you Supreme Court history nerds, favorite piece of trivia today, Judge Breyer there, the brother of former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. All right, let's get to that commercial break. Don't want to miss anything. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Coverage right, you might get the ball still. So I'm sure everybody's heard of those routes where, you know, you kind of design to clear out, or maybe based off a certain coverage, you'll be eliminated.
Let's get you live now to Mayor Karen Bass, who's speaking at a press conference.
I wanted to let the city know
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and other city officials addressing the public live right now. Let's watch.
CBS 2 News streams here. CBS News Chicago.
Way to the 110 freeway.
someone's home that's been violated. And it's happening in a neighborhood where working class families are just trying to live. Our street vendors, our garment workers, many of whom are immigrants, continue to watch their communities be torn apart. And that's why I'm thankful the mayor for leveraging this tool, enacting a curfew to begin tonight. This has been something that many of my constituents in downtown have been calling for what they're facing. This curfew is not about silencing protests. It's about protecting people and ensuring that the local residents, small businesses, our families, our elders, and our workers are not left vulnerable to those who come only to destroy. What happens in downtown reverberates all throughout LA, and when we protect downtown, we protect our city. And we're investing in its future, and we invest in our shared future. So to my colleagues and to our residents and everyone watching, downtown LA is not just a center for the First Amendment expression, it's a community. It's a home, and the people in it deserve our protection and care. That path ahead may be uncertain, but our responsibility to protect and uplift this neighborhood is not. I want to close this message from my constituents so that you hear them loud and clear. Downtown LA is home. Please keep it safe. Keep each other safe. Thank you, Los Angeles.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. I'd now like to introduce Nella McCosker, who
leadership we see and continue to need for downtown. CCA, or Central City Association, represents businesses, institutions, nonprofits, the fabric of downtown Los Angeles that also represents the wider city. And it is the case that downtown is a neighborhood. It is the case that downtown is where immigrant-owned businesses try to operate and thrive. And so we can differentiate between downtown being a place to and the actions that we've seen each evening since this occurred in the last few days. So thank you for applying this tool. There are others certainly that we could look at as well, but hopefully Angelenos rally together in support of this really important section of our city because of the symbol and of the benefits it provides to everyone across Los Angeles. Thank you.
I'd like to open up for questions, but before I acknowledge Dr. Earl Suthers, who is the president.
Viewers to KCAL News at 6, and we are in the middle of a press conference given by Mayor Karen Bass.
The problem is that we don't know how long these raids are going to go on. If they're going to go on for 30 days, that's what the rumor is.
It is important that we teach the real and accurate history of America. The history of how we are all on stolen land. The real history of how this country was built on the sweat, blood, and tears of black bodies, enslaved people who were forced into labor.
We either have a country or we don't. It's time to choose a side. Borders are. Tom Homan is here now. Mr. Homan. What happened over the weekend here?
Well, you said exactly right. I came in Wednesday to kick off an operation on Friday, and it was a criminal operation. We served criminal search warrants at several places of businesses that were involved with money laundering, tax evasion, and customs fraud, bringing in over $86 million of unclaimed imports and skipping on $17 million of tariff taxes. And it's a part of a bigger investigation having to do with money flowing to Mexico and Colombia that fund the cartels, the drug cartels. So we were serving arrest warrants. We were serving criminal search warrants. And that's when the protest started. And as you said earlier, outside this arrest warrant, we arrested 40 illegal aliens working with these businesses. We also arrested significant criminal public safety threats. You mentioned it.
So they have 40 people just working there? I wonder how many illegal aliens they actually have working in that city. Like, I wonder what the actual number is. I'm curious.
Child sexual predators, people that committed murder, people that committed
I don't know,
significant
over
domestic violence, and one was a penetration of a foreign object into a young lady.
State?
So we took the men and women's race in those 2 days, made LA much safer. So the mayor should have been thinking ice, the governor should have been making ice. Instead of that, they want to call them terrorists, they want to call them racist, and that rhetoric has caused this protest. And I was there the first 2
I think that he's right about that. That, like, obviously, like, I don't think that they shouldn't be allowed to say that. Like, I don't think it should be illegal, but I think it's bad that they're saying it. Like, the entire idea that, like, it's racist to deport these people, that's crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy, and it's just, again, like, you shouldn't say that, but I disagree with it. And, bro, about 98% of illegal immigrants are housed and employed. They're not migrant homeless camps in LA, is there? I'm not sure, right? I mean, I guess some of them are. But, yeah, I mean, they have a housing problem. Houses are really expensive, and you've got a bunch of people living in these houses that aren't even supposed to be in the country. And I feel like there's a pretty easy solution there.
Nights. It was out of control. The city was burning. Governor Newsom did nothing. The mayor did nothing. So President Trump, God bless him, he sent the National Guard in to save property and save lives. And I salute him for doing it.
Well, you mentioned the governor. He says he wants you to arrest him. Well, what would you arrest him for?
Well, look, I was interviewed by an embassy reporter. He asked me about the protesters. So look, they got the right to protest, but they can't cross that line. They can't impede our enforcement efforts. They can't put hands on our officers. They can't knowingly harbor and conceal illegal aliens from us.
Isn't that, it's so obvious. I don't know why people don't get it.
So if they cross that line, they're going to be prosecuted. And the question was, well, how about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? What if they cross that line? I says they'll be prosecuted too. Haven't they said for the last 4 years no one's above the law? They cross the line, we'll seek prosecution. You and I would be held accountable. They prosecuted President Trump. No one's above the law. That's what they said. Either is the governor. Newsom. If he crosses that line, we'll simply ask the Attorney General to seek prosecution.
Yeah.
It wasn't a threat. No one threatened to arrest him. But if he crosses that line and commits a crime, he's no better than anybody else who will seek prosecution.
Do you feel like the politicians are extorting you, extorting the country? Because they're saying, when ICE leaves, then we'll stop rioting.
They absolutely are. They're saying they're threatening this chaos. They're basically sacrificing everybody's well-being in the city in order to push this narrative. That's exactly what they're doing.
Well, I was saying, leaving. Well, as a matter of fact, we got over 100 teams out today enforcing immigration law, and we're going to flood the zone. I've said for a month, sanctuary cities, you don't want us to arrest these bad guys that you just listed out. We could arrest them in the safety and security of county jail, but they won't let us into jail. They release them into the community, which means we got to send a whole.
I saw earlier. It's like I just don't see how somebody can view that as like this is the better option. It's like how can you not see how unsafe that is?
A bunch of teams in the community to find this dangerous person that don't want to be found. So sanctuary cities are going to get exactly what they don't want. More officers in the communities and more officers in worksite. We can't arrest them in jail or arrest them in the community. If we can't arrest them in the community, we're going to increase worksite enforcement operation. We're going to flood the zone. And based on what LA is doing right now, we're going to continue to flood the zones. We're going to be there tonight. We're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there every day in the next 4 years, arresting public safety threat illegal aliens. We're not going to apologize for doing it.
Thank God.
So we're not going anywhere, Jesse. We're going to do the job the American people voted Donald Trump in office for. We're going to make America safe again, one illegal alien criminal at a time. And this
here is that there is a curfew. She has declared a local emergency. There is a curfew going into effect tonight at 8 p.m., lasting until 6 a.m. The curfew will last for 1 square mile of the downtown area. 5 freeway to the 110, the 10 freeway to where the 110 and the 5 freeway merge. And from what we've heard from the mayor, she is imposing this curfew because 23 businesses have been looted so far. And she says graffiti is everywhere. If you don't live or work in the area, you should avoid it. Mike Rogers, question to you.
Yeah.
How are people going to find out about this, the people that are already there? Do we know of specific businesses, restaurants in that 1 square mile area that she's talking about? Because if so, that's going to impact them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, a couple of things. I mean, we'll likely see them do the wireless emergency alerts. We know that on Sunday night they use those to tell the crowd to disperse. So that will likely go out to that geographical area if it hasn't already. It probably will soon. I'm sure they'll use that method. Law enforcement in the area will start notifying people that are there that in, hey, about an hour and 45 minutes, a curfew goes into effect. Certainly, Pat, there are restaurants and businesses. I want to ask Mike Parrott if we can show my computer here. Excuse me. This is the area that we are talking about. So it is a very, very, very large section of downtown LA that we are talking about. Dodger Stadium, for reference, is right there. So you're looking at all of the freeways that come down here. And the reason it is such a large area is because, you know, Sunday night it was in Chinatown. The most of the this week it has been kind of along the 101 freeway here from the, you know, City Hall, the Federal Building, all of that. We also saw it down here at LA Live. So it really has popped up. They were in the Arts District last night as well. So when you see why they are doing it in such a large geographical area, well, if you hear the mayor, she actually refers to it as a small geographical area, but it is a large portion. It is all of downtown LA, and then up, as you mentioned, Pat, to the 5 and the 110 split right there, where it comes together. So they're incorporating a big section of downtown LA for this area. Businesses certainly will be impacted. Now, it'll be used as a tool to basically, you know, we saw this during some of the fires as well in the, you know, the evacuation zone areas. It'll basically be used as a tool. LAPD will no longer have to issue dispersal orders. They'll no longer have to issue unlawful assemblies. After 8 o'clock, if you're there and you have no business there, game over, you can be arrested. You can be arrested. And it's the people that have legitimate purposes there are, you know, people that she said that live in the area, credentialed journalists. Certainly if you're going to and from work, you'll do that. Remember, we saw this during 2020. They issued curfews citywide during 2020. Remember here, we actually carried letters with us that said we were okay to move about the city throughout the course of this. So they will be targeting people that are up to no good, you know, and the people that live in downtown and work in downtown certainly will be allowed to come and go, but they shouldn't be just kind of roaming the streets like we are seeing this group now. So about an hour and 45 minutes that's supposed to go in place.
Okay, well, you know, wondering if they have more buses downtown. I'm just wondering because some people may want to be arrested, as we saw earlier today, and that is certainly going to happen. At 8 o'clock.
And I did hear from a source with a law enforcement source tonight that tells me this is the first day that they've had dedicated booking teams, dedicated arrest and booking teams for this incident.
And from what we heard, she said this is probably going to last 30 days.
Yeah, as long as it takes to make sure that this doesn't, you know, continue on. It's a local state of emergency within the downtown area. You know, we do expect a press conference from Governor Gavin Newsom coming up at 6:30. So we will hear what additional information he says. His team telling us it's a major announcement. So we'll be unclear exactly what that major announcement is. But we are expecting Governor Gavin Newsom to speak, you know, in about 10 or 15 minutes here, Pat.
Okay, Mike. Well, let's go back to our Jeff Nguyen, who is in downtown Los Angeles. Jeff, I'm sure you heard us talking, and you are aware that a curfew is going to take effect in less than 2 hours from now, 8 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m.
Yeah, it's very understandable because last night here in Little Tokyo, the streets echoed with fireworks and some of the community's cultural landmarks were targeted and vandalized.
To tag this building is like spitting in the face of everything.
Susan Jacaro says she has so many reasons to be angry.
I understand people are angry. I totally get it, but people need to channel that anger.
She and this group of people took part in the demonstrations against the ICE operations in LA, but they condemned the violence and vandalism against landmarks like the Japanese-American National Museum in Little Tokyo. Gina Hong Thompson lives at the Tokyo Towers. She had to rely on her dog for comfort as fireworks echoed around the affordable housing complex for older adults.
I feel like it's some war. I've never been war.
The images of disturbances scared her children who live locally and out of state.
What were your children saying to you?
Mom, don't go outside.
That's because coverage showed this burning car outside the church attended by a number of people who live at the Tokyo Towers. At the Little Tokyo Service Center, staffers pleaded with people Monday night to not vandalize the complex that also provides affordable housing.
A lot of the work that we're doing is just letting people know that Little Tokyo is a home to people, and that's like kind of what's most important to for people to know.
Back at the museum, fencing went up Tuesday. What's the significance of this courtyard?
This courtyard is holy ground for the Japanese American community.
The chair of the Board of Trustees says the museum has championed civil rights. One of its missions, educating people about how this part of LA was tied to the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II.
Where thousands of Japanese Americans were taken, forced on the buses.
LTSC had planned on unveiling a new affordable housing apartment complex tomorrow, but that grand opening has been postponed because of all of the recent disturbances. We're reporting live in Little Tokyo. Jeff Nguyen, KCAL News.
All right, Jeff. Well, glad to see people pitching in and trying to clean up some of that graffiti. And where are you again exactly? Because you look kind of lonely out there now.
Yeah, so we are right on the outskirt of Little Tokyo, so basically near Los Angeles. And first, for those of us who grew up in Southern California, that Chase building was the old Sumitomo Bank building, and then you got the Miyako Hotel. On the flip side of the Miyako Hotel is that big mural of Shohei Ohtani, and then right across the street is exactly where the
and he hasn't proposed anything himself since he took office.
And so where do we go from here? Because obviously the rhetoric, the
very soon to get his thoughts. All right, wanted to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to take this time to slide away for a 2-minute commercial break. Much more when we return.
Well, let's fix that right now because it is not illegal to be undocumented. It is not.
Hands on the View, or I call them hamburger heifers. Look at that one. Look at that one, bro. What a wasted face. I always call her a wasted face because she kind of pretty. She little, so she kind of lose point because she like 4 foot nothing. But she do got a cute little face, and it's a waste. Too bad that brain don't match that face. Roll the clip.
So counterproductive to the very cause that you're advocating for. Well, and it feeds into what he wanted to do. What he wants to do is he wants to create a scene. He wants to say, I was justified in sending in the National Guard because look at how violent these protesters are, which they were not until this was exacerbated.
Yes, thank you.
I think he has a strategy here. He is losing support in every area. Inflation, the economy, tariffs, foreign policy. His ratings are dropping. Like rocks, but there's one category
Hold
under
on.
30%.
Let me stop this hamburger heifer. If he's losing support in every area, why would people support him doing this? Because this is a very drastic measure, right? From what they talking about, this is a bad look for him, right? He exacerbated the situation, right? Why would, if he got so little support, why would he do something to lose more support in California? Why would he do it? These people are so disingenuous. Donald Trump is not losing support. It's a few dummies that's like, yeah, Trump. It's like for the most people, we're like, look, man, it's the best we have. And I think the guy's acting in good faith, and I think he's trying to do the right thing. Yeah, he do some stuff here and there that I don't like, but overall, Donald Trump is doing his thing. You think Kamala Harris is going to do better? No, we seen him in the Middle East. Like, we're not like, we don't have tunnel vision. People who hate Trump and have Trump derangement syndrome, they have tunnel vision. They're like, Donald Trump did this wrong. That's a totality of his existence. Is one thing that he made a mistake on. One thing that he didn't fulfill at 100% of what he said. We see the big picture. We see the effort in shutting down the border. We see the effort in deporting all these people that should not be in our country that are committing crimes, felonies, rape, you name it. They doing it all. We see him trying to do something right with getting us fair trade agreements across the world. We see him go to the Middle East and they offering him jets and doing all this other stuff for our country because he's over there making deals.
Documented and therefore deported. That it's criminal. Actually thinks it is crime enough to be undocumented and therefore deported.
That it's criminal to be undocumented?
Yes, it is not. You know how the disagreement was in the beginning? We were told it was going to be violent criminals, and I think everyone at this table would agree. Haul out violent criminals, fine. But a very important distinction was 60% of the American public, 2/3 of independents, 90% of Republicans, and just a little under half of Democrats think the crime is in being undocumented. Even if it's a civil offense. Yes.
Yeah,
so what I'm
true.
saying is a massive amount of this country actually agrees with not how he's doing it, but with what he's doing.
So there's
I think
misinformation out
the
there.
strategy here is he's leaning into a scene right now, creating a bigger thing, because it is the one thing that he remains.
Do y'all think, I want y'all to comment in the comment section, write a survey. Do y'all think he leaning into something, or the man just doing his job? He's doing what these people are so disingenuous, it's crazy to me. He's doing what the American people asked him to do. This broad just said 90% of Republicans, 2/3 of independents, and over half of Democrats say that they want people to be deported. So when they deporting people, like most Americans want them to do, and you got people in California trying to kill the agents who are doing it, how is he wrong? The people want him to do this. It's crazy to me. It's like these women are like a toxic baby mama. It don't have to be a baby mama because some of y'all don't have baby kids with these women. They toxic. It's like a toxic woman, an ex, who lived their whole life just gaslighting. You're like, bro, 2 + 2 is 4. That's not what you said last week. What do you mean? Why you want to argue with me? It's the same thing with these people. It's like the American people want them to be deported. The ICE agents are doing what they said they're going to do. Donald Trump got elected, and they're doing what he got elected to do. Y'all see that they're bludgeoning ICE agents and trying to kill people while they're doing their job. Oh, but Donald Trump is the problem now. Come on. You're trying to keep me away from my kids, and then when I go off on you, I'm the problem. That's crazy. Roll the clip.
Well, let's fix that right now because it is not illegal to be undocumented. It is not a crime to be undocumented.
But what they're saying is the problem is that they
no, but
are
I'm just saying we need to put that information out there. It is a civil infraction.
Yeah, and I don't think
criminal.
it's actually. Broadly a misunderstanding. I think that 60% of Americans believe it's a civil offense and that if you come here and you're undocumented, that you should be deported.
But he's actually lost some points on the way he's handling immigration, not the border.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of I think a lot of Americans voted for him on immigration, thinking he was going to make America actually function. And this is not what I think a lot of people voted for.
All right, let's kind of debunk this thing real quick. I want you. Yeah, I want to debunk this illegal thing. They're so dang fake and disingenuous. It's crazy to me. I'm finna debunk it real quick. Give me a second. All right, let's go through this real quick because I want to call them garden tools, but I'm not. These women are literally conflating the idea of unlawfully being in this country as not being a criminal offense. If every single person, right, was somehow an asylum-seeking person, they have a court date. Therefore, they don't have documentation. That's not illegal. If they miss their court date, that's not a criminal offense, right? Because they haven't been adjudicated. There hasn't been a decision on their asylum claim. However, that's if every single human being that was in this country did it like that, right? But there are other cases of illegals in this country that are criminal. Let me give you an example. Re-entry after being deported is a felony. Okay, using fraudulent documentation or identity theft to gain entry or employment is illegal. Smuggling or harboring undocumented individuals, illegal. Falsely claiming U.S. citizenship, illegal. There are plenty of people that are in this country undocumented that are doing these very things. How are they saying? They're trying to act like everybody's just here on a kumbaya. If you are illegally in this country and you do not have a work visa, how do you work on a job? You're not supposed to be hired if you're an illegal alien in this country. I cannot hire a person without a work permit if they're illegally in America or they're not a U.S. citizen. So then what are all these people doing that you claim are working? They're lying about their status. Okay. And let's go through the civil violation that they're referring to. Unlawful presence or overstaying a visa or entering without inspection is typically handled through civil immigration proceedings, not a criminal court. Penalties including deportation or being barred from re-entry for a period of time. Think about this for a minute. Although these garden tools are saying it's not a crime, it's not a crime, it's not a crime, but if you're in this country illegally, you are to be deported. When you violate that, you are to be deported. You don't have to commit a crime to be deported. Right here it says penalties include deportation. So although they're trying to say it's civil, it's not criminal. Well, not every situation is the same. There's a lot of the stuff that they're doing that are criminal. Because if you're a person that's illegal in this country and you are somehow harboring other illegals, which means that you are living with them and you're not turning them in and you're evading them getting captured, you know they're supposed to go to court, but you're making sure that they don't get caught. You're trying to make them hide through the scenes and driving cars like this and taking them and dodging all this stuff. You are harboring an illegal alien, even if you are illegal. If you somehow are an undocumented person in this country, overstayed a visa, you get your illegal family in your house and you know they're illegal, and you keeping them somewhere to stay, getting them jobs, you're harboring an illegal alien. That's a felony charge. But they try to act like because just overstaying visas and things like that are not necessarily handled in criminal court, that somehow you can't even be deported. That's a lie. Misdemeanor to enter the U.S. without inspection. First offense, misdemeanor. Repeat offense, felony. Fraud, false documents. Obviously, I talk about identity theft used to stay or work leads to criminal prosecution. The argument, this view asserts that crossing the border unlawfully or overstaying a visa is a deliberate violation of the U.S. sovereignty and should be met with criminal accountability. Many point out that illegal entry is codified as a crime and allowed unchecked violations undermine the rule of law. So let me say this. I'm looking at the statute right here. Maybe I was slightly incorrect. I think that based on what I'm reading, it is a crime. They are just diverting it to civil court because right here in 8 U.S. Code 1325, and this is what Tom Homan said. I don't know why I forgot he said this. It says that it makes it a misdemeanor to enter the U.S. without inspection. That means crossing the border illegally. That's a misdemeanor charge. The first offense is a misdemeanor, according to 8 U.S. Code 1326 or 25. And
law. Again, thanks to our law enforcement officers. what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society. He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived. He's taking a wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project, 3 co-equal branches of independent government. There are no longer any checks and balances. Congress is nowhere to be found. Speaker Johnson has completely abdicated that responsibility. The rule of law has increasingly been given way to the rule of Don. The founding fathers, they didn't live and die to see this kind of moment. It's time for all of us to stand up. Justice Brandeis, he said it best. In a democracy, the most important office, with all due respect, Mr. President, is not the presidency, and it's certainly not governor. The most important office is office of citizen. At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him.
Strong words. Go ahead, Javon.
Sorry to interrupt, Mark. I was just going to say you've been listening to Governor Gavin Newsom addressing the federal raids, blaming President Donald Trump for escalating the protests and the aftermath of those protests, the vandalism and the looting, pointing out the use of tear gas, flashbang grenades, that Donald Trump, without any communication with law enforcement, sent in commandeered 2,000 National Guard members, sending them to California. He talked about some of the people who have been taken into custody by ICE being dishwashers, gardeners, seamstresses, not the violent criminals that President Trump
basically trying to undermine democracy and trying to bring in authoritarianism. It is the strongest condemnation thus far of the president by Governor Gavin Newsom, who has made no secret of his opposition to this president and who has been a very forceful voice in opposition to President Donald Trump.
He also mentioned this is not just about protests and California. This is about all of us. He's referring to other states, saying that other states are next. And to your point, Mark, he repeated several times that democracy is under assault.
We will have more on what the governor said, more on what the reaction is to it. We can expect, given the political climate and environment, that the president will weigh in his own way. We will bring that to you if and when it happens. And we're going to keep an eye as well on the protests that continue in downtown LA. We make note of this march that is heading toward Grand Park. It is peaceful, and the efforts to maintain the peace will continue with a curfew in downtown Los Angeles. Until we return, we will leave you with this, that Eyewitness News will return and cover all elements of this story from every angle as best we can tonight. We'll be back.
immigrants' rights, giving passionate speeches about the role of immigrants in this country and the need to protect them. A lot of people outraged. Part of it, and that's why they felt compelled to take to the streets, raise a sign, maybe raise a fist, or as we've seen here today, raising their hand.
To, or rather eastbound turn onto Olympic from the 110 freeway.
All right, we thank you, Eliana. We want to bring in NBC4's Robert Kovacic. He is at that vigil in downtown Los Angeles at Graham Park.
That's right. Robert, how's it looking out there right now?
You know, honestly, it's looking great. We have got more and more people. We started with just a couple of hundred. That number has doubled since we last saw you. We have people here that have gathered peacefully, and these are people with a message. You can see it with the flags that they're waving, with the signs that they're carrying, and with the message that is coming from the stage. This is Father Greg Boyle right now addressing the audience, and this is just one of the interfaith leaders that has talked to this crowd. And when you look at the people that are on the stage, he just introduced Councilmember Eunice Hernandez. We saw Mayor.
Sorry, Boo, say again? Yeah. Nope, not yet. Love it. You got it.
The administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to, he's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected, but assaulted. This is a serious problem.
That's from Speaker Johnson. Governor Newsom the other day telling me that he thought that Speaker Johnson was a joke and basically like a lapdog to Donald Trump doing whatever he wants. So clearly the two of them not in a great place. They may have to work together on $40 billion of federal funding for LA wildfires, but for now, this is what they're talking about. The speaker saying that Governor Newsom should do his job, stop defying the president. All right, we're going to take a pause from some of the politics of the day to talk about, speaking of fires, there was a new fire today. Crews apparently have mostly put out this roughly 10-acre brush fire that forced some...
So we were just...
Copy that.
Or because they just want to wear us down, guys. We all know it. So what is our job? Let's see. To resist, to have endurance, to stay in it, to know that we are not going to get there tomorrow. But they have to, we all are going to get there. We all are going to get there. All of you guys are going to pray. You're going to be people. You're going to support each other. And you're going to ask for what you need. And you're going to be honest with each other. And we got to keep telling the truth, y'all. They do not tell the truth. Our job is to tell the truth. Bear witness to the truth. Don't tell everybody what you saw tonight. Tell them the stories you heard from families. Tell them the nonviolence that you experienced, the power of it, what our love can do. Yeah. You gotta go share that story. And I always say something to my white people.
There to California's Governor Gavin Newsom, who said that President Trump is, quote, pulling a military dragnet across Los Angeles in these brief remarks that he was able to make. This comes, of course, after Trump ordered the deployment of nearly 5,000 troops, including National Guard members and Marines, to the nation's second largest city. President Trump says that they were deployed there in order to protect federal buildings, but are now also protecting immigration agents as they're carrying out some of these arrests there in Southern California. Newsom said that Trump's immigration crackdown has gone well beyond, though, arresting criminals, and that dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses are among those who have also been detained. So again, he said that President Trump's decision to deploy the California National Guard without his support should be a warning to other states, saying California may be the first, but it clearly won't end here. Wanted to bring you those full remarks as well from California's Governor Gavin Newsom as these protests are heating up all over the country. In fact, we're getting some compelling images right now out of Denver. I want to put this on your screen. We've also been watching this as well. This is happening live right now in Denver, Colorado, as other anti-ICE protests are ongoing as well. We do know that people have been gathering there outside of the Colorado State Capitol, as well as other locations there in the city. This is all in relation to the ICE Out protests. They say that they are standing with the immigrants in Los Angeles who have been targeted by law enforcement during those raids. But right now, we can see several people being detained there in Denver. Again, want to remind you, viewer discretion is advised in these situations. These are live images that are just now coming into our newsroom. Want to do the best to show you all of these vantage points and also stay on top of it. But it is important for you all to keep in mind that sometimes some of these signs that are there are popping up, and they could have vulgar language as well. But again, we just saw a number of people detained there by those law enforcement agents as they're wearing tactical gear there in Denver. This is very similar to what we've seen in some of these other cities as well. But again, a Mexican flag there, also a frequent thing that we've seen, some of these protests happening all around. But again, another person on the ground there as well. So our camera view isn't going to always be the most stable during this. Our thanks to our camera crews who are out there on the ground feeding in some of these images to us. But that's just escalating there in Denver. This is sort of what we've been continuing to see in multiple cities throughout the day and throughout these last 5 days as these anti-ICE protests have been heating up. Another person detained there. See there?
Thank you.
This is not, again, this is a frequent thing that we've seen over the last few days. That person just being dragged there out of the way by law enforcement. They do appear to have on gas masks at this time as well. This has happened pretty frequently. Again, so your discretion is always advised, but it seems like these things pop off in pockets. We'll see in a time period of peace. I've been watching this shot here in our newsroom. It had been peaceful period of time. And then there are several folks just detained in an instant. So we're keeping our eye on this, but just for some more context here, you're just now joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We're also following the very latest as multiple protests have broken out all over the country. This one happening right now in Denver. So this started apparently at the California State Capitol today, as this was an event calling for immigrants' rights, announcing solidarity with demonstrators as well in Los Angeles. But it was the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition that was asking people to mobilize and stand with those protesters in Los Angeles. But at 8 p.m. local time, our affiliates there at Fox 31 in Denver say that they saw Denver police begin to deploy crowd control gas. So we're keeping our eye on this here on Live Now from Fox. watching as this protest heats up there in Denver. This is the second anti-ICE protest there in Colorado in just the last 2 days. In a press release where this protest was organized by, the group said that people are not backing down, saying that they want to show support for the people of California protesting against immigrant raids there. So the Denver Police Department has responded. They said that they are aware of the protests that are happening there in the city, saying that safety is the top priority at this point. So we'll continue to keep our eyes on this protest as others as well are happening around the country. Wanted to bring that to you because it was heating up there for a moment, but like I said, we've seen this all throughout the weekend over the last 5 days as these protests have been going on. There will be moments where there'll be peace and calm like this, where you'll see that there will be law enforcement officers standing in a face-off sort of with some of the protesters, but no active detainments, no active takedowns happening. Seems like we've gotten into another section where that's the case here. All right, we wanted to bring this to you here on Live Now from Fox. But again, wanted to show you this before we step away for a 2-minute break. This is what is being put out there by some of those local news outlets there in Denver, saying that people were gathering there initially earlier today outside of the Colorado State Capitol. That's where this protest began. Protesters standing with immigrants in Los Angeles who they say have been targeted by law enforcement during those protests there against ICE. Before we go to a 2-minute break, we've been going to this shot a few times as well. This one there in New York City, as folks are still gathering there as well, standing off with police officers here. This is another group of anti-ICE protesters, this one happening in our nation's largest city, New York. All right, we're going to take this time to slide away for a 2-minute break. On the other side, we'll be heading back to California. We'll be heading back to the nation's second largest city where we've seen a number of these protests, really where the heart of these protests have been happening there in the country. Live look there in Southern California. We'll be heading back there after the 2-minute break.
We head into overnight tonight. Tomorrow morning. There across the Pacific Northwest. We're not expected to see any precipitation that's well up to the north.
Large law enforcement presence we can see right now happening in Chicago. Hundreds of others gathering there in the streets as those protests have been ongoing since early afternoon. Another update that we also have is that at this time we know that no buses have been running there in that area as well. CTA put out to folks they need need transportation around the city to use the L train as an alternative as well. But again, it was these very scary moments. If you're just now joining us here on Live Now from Fox, putting this back up on your screen, this is the video footage that has been making its rounds. Scary moments there as protesters were walking near Monroe Street at around 6:20 p.m. local time. This is when that dark red / maroon car appeared to have sped through the crowd in an area where the street was blocked. Again, even from this vantage point, you can see people jumping out of the way to avoid the car, but it narrowly misses so many people, does come into contact with folks then striking back at the driver's windows. And it seems that even the police officers stepping up and hitting that car with their batons. But we do know that according to Fox 32, our local partners there in Chicago, Dane Placco, the reporter, said that it was a frightening moment for those in the streets, but it was unclear if anyone was hurt by the car. But of course, people see they're jumping out of the way. And so again, the reporters there at Fox 32 said that the group of people were there in the street protesting, but the driver of this maroon car appeared to be irritated that they couldn't get through the streets because of all of the protests. But afterwards, a group of people were seen attending to what appeared to be an older woman who was on the ground after that car sped through. It's unclear at this time, though, if she had been hurt by the car. But again, witnesses on the scene watching the same video on the ground as this happened, saying that folks were diving out of the way, that the person was shouting, but they kept barreling through the crowd. So it's unclear at this point, according to our partners there at Fox 32, if anyone was arrested for this incident. But just very, very, very scary video footage that we have here in from Chicago as those protests are continuing to happen there throughout the city. Going to take you back live out to Chicago right now. They're in the Windy City. We'll keep up and keep our eye on all of these protests as they're ongoing in multiple places throughout our country. But again, yet another anti-ICE protest happening right now in Chicago. It's prompted street closures, and we've seen folks on camera getting detained here even in the last few minutes. Saw a man in a white shirt being led away by officers with his hands behind his back and appeared to be handcuffed. So we'll keep our eye on all of this. We're going to slide away now, though, for a 2-minute break. Stay with us.
of former Justice Stephen Breyer. So he's a Clinton appointee. I'm sure everyone wants to know who the judge is and how he will rule. In this particular case, we're talking about an important issue, federalism, and who has control when you have the executive of the United States, the president, and the executive of the state of California that are in disagreement. And generally speaking, federal circumstances here because the National Guard is typically under the governor's control. And
Judge Charles Breyer declined Newsom's request to issue the order immediately and is now giving the Trump administration the time that they requested to file a response. He's set up a hearing right now for Thursday to determine whether or not to issue that temporary restraining order. Ultimately, why did the judge decide to make this decision?
I think that's the right move, Christina. You're talking about a federal law that's on its face seems to favor the Trump administration's position here. And I've come on the show and I've been critical of the president, saying he's done things that are unlawful, even things that are unconstitutional. But in this case, if you look at the law, it allows the president to take over the National Guard under one of three circumstances. One, if I'm not sure that's the case. The second is if there's a rebellion against U.S. authority. So maybe that's something you're dealing with here. And the third is probably most likely to apply that if the president believes that he's unable to enforce federal law with the agents and officers that he has. And that appears to be the case. And the reason that's important, Christina, is under California law, the Values Act, state and local police officers and sheriff's deputies, they are prohibited from actually helping with civil immigration enforcement. So now, regardless of how you feel about it politically, and I understand that immigration is a hot button political issue, I don't think the president has the bodies to enforce these immigration raids like DHS wants to. So it's not unlawful, if you just look at the plain text of the law in Title 10, for him to call up the National Guard. I know it's very rare for it to be done over the governor's objection. It hasn't happened for decades, since the South, the civil rights movement in Selma, and even going back further to desegregation after Brown v. Board. But there is precedent for this, which is why I think Judge Breyer wants to hear from the Department of Justice, the federal government, to hear their position before he issues a ruling.
And it has been interesting because, like you said, it's a hot button issue. And even looking at some of this footage that we've had in our newsroom, I'm going to put this up as well, aerial footage of the response that we've seen from even local law enforcement. And Nima, I want to take the time because it is important to distinguish between the two, right? The National Guard or the Marines, those are under federal employment, but LAPD stepping in as they have to sort of get these protests under control, two separate issues.
Absolutely. So obviously, local police, LAPD, they're not going to be involved in the raids of, homes and businesses to deport individuals. But obviously, if they see
بس عشان ناخد يلا ماشيين.
The curfew area will be between the 5 freeway and to the 110 and the 10 freeway to where the 110 Not to minimize the vandalism and violence that has taken place there, it has been significant, but it is extremely important to know that what is happening in this 1 square mile is not affecting the city. Some of the imagery of the protests and the violence gives the appearance as though this is a citywide crisis, and it is not. So everyone must abide by this curfew. Limited exceptions will apply for residents, people traveling to and from work, and credentialed media representatives. With that, I would like to turn it over.
Excuse me, ma'am.
He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. He federal.
lives, shared stories, made memories.
That we want to get as much information out about these raids and about what is happening as possible, because people want to know and people at 6. A lot going on. We will continue our live coverage of Governor Newsom's address. That's coming up on our ABC 7 streaming channel. It is set to begin in somewhere around 45 seconds from now or so, perhaps a little bit later. You can watch it live on our website, on your phone, on your connected TV, anywhere you stream ABC 7 Los Angeles. Here on TV, we're going to turn things over to David Muir in just a couple of moments for World News Tonight. In the meantime, our crews are fanned out across Southern California, keeping an eye on all the new developments, all the activity. We will bring it all to you on stream and on television as well, coming up.
This has been Eyewitness News with breaking news.
عايز قائد الارشاد في احسن من الطريق.
And you cannot be in downtown Los Angeles beginning at 8 p.m. tonight.
And we're just getting word that Governor Newsom's feed, his address, they're providing it to us, and unfortunately there are some technical issues. It's not working, so we can't share it with you. If we cannot bring it to you live here on this streaming channel, we will, of course, update you throughout the night on what he had to say to Californians in response to the White House's efforts for the federal raids.
The title of his speech, though, an ominous one, Democracy at a Crossroads. That we do know, basically from the title screen that is up there now. Presumably the governor and the state of California now working, and his staff working on fixing the audio issues that are plaguing this right now. We will bring this to you as soon as we can. We hope to bring it to you in its entirety. If it's not available live to us at the outset, we'll try to get a recording of it and play it to you in its entirety. We don't know how long it's going to be, but we know it's an important address from the governor addressing a serious situation in the state of California, and in particular, of course, here in Southern California, where these raids by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, have been ongoing now for the better part of a week.
We'll have all of the latest on that on Eyewitness News at 11 p.m. tonight, but we will also have several news cut-ins where we will share the new details as they become available. As we continue to watch the protests underway in downtown Los Angeles, again, people, we believe, heading to Grand Park for a rally, an anti-ICE rally. We will bring you the latest on that. Hopefully, the violence and hopefully the looting and the vandalism, we don't see any of that tonight. Law enforcement has been in the downtown area all day long. Officers on horses, the CHP were lined up along the 101 freeway earlier today, arresting the folks who made their way onto the 101 freeway. And I should mention that a lot of those protesters willingly went with officers, allowed themselves to be handcuffed and taken away. But again, you see the traffic there in downtown Los Angeles and protesters still on the streets.
Indeed. 11th and Flower in downtown Los Angeles. They appear to be, at this point, heading west, which would make them west on 11th Street. I think Flower is a north-south street. So as they head there, they're heading, we believe, toward Grand Park, where we're told there might be a prayer vigil out there. All right, let's go now. I guess we've got the audio back. Let's go to it.
Began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb. A similar scene played out when a clothing company was raided downtown. In other actions, a U.S. citizen, 9 months pregnant, was arrested. A 4-year-old girl taken. Families separated. Friends quite
When you've got a 2,000-pound beast, or however, Christina Gonzalez would know better than I how much a horse weighs.
Let's go back to Laura Diaz, if we can. They're on the ground. Laura, you are outside the federal building, where it seems to me that police are tightening up that area right now, really trying to take control of that area with a clear sign to those people that you see backing up right now.
Yeah, you can see that there's a scrimmage line that's been formed on the other side. When we had the camera whipped around before and we were showing you the mounted unit, that's the other side. So they're now walking toward us, and I presume they're trying to get the last. Okay, they want us to move. We got to move.
All right, we'll take it back here. Obviously, Laura, a member of the media as well, but when the police come in like this and they are clearing the area, that means us as well.
Yeah.
It is.
They'll start directing you to an area that you need to go. If they don't want you there, we have a right to be there as members of the media, but they can tell you, instead of here, please go over there.
And again, that is the area where we saw the National Guard there and Homeland Security there. Obviously, the LAPD wanting to make a statement about that specific area to start, for sure. That's where our camera is, and we are seeing overhead. But they're really wanting to make a statement, Susan, about that area with the federal building, and perhaps that is a sign that they want no damage in that area, nobody being unruly in that area, and making a stand right there.
Well, particularly because a lot of what we see, a lot of the optics, especially around the federal building, that informs what kinds of sentiment we're getting out of the president or Speaker Johnson, or, you know, anyone that is justifying the orders that ICE and Border Patrol, whatever, have issued, or specifically the Trump administration, in terms of like fortifying law enforcement around federal buildings.
So it happened around 6 o'clock, give or take, right before 6 o'clock, that the mayor's news conference happened. LA Mayor Karen Bass declaring a local emergency with that curfew for tonight. And a reminder to anybody who's watching from other parts of the country, who is watching from other parts of the world, other cities, if you do know dealing with this, and you and I can provide information. But I'm wondering, to our viewers, if you also have gotten a message from family or friends who they live away from LA, they live in another location, and they want to check on you, because emotionally, this affects all of us, because we're all watching. We know the ICE operations are not over. And for families that are being directly affected by the ICE operations, it's a very painful time. But on a greater issue, we're looking at this politically. We're looking at this with our local government and our national government, and it affects us in LA, but it also affects the nation.
Absolutely. It's, in fact, the mayor called it an experiment, that she said that she believes that this is the Trump administration's experiment. If we can take the second largest city and take control of it,
doesn't get to stay. It seems everybody with a cell phone seems to be a commentator, seems to be press. I'm sure that you have to have some kind of credential to consider yourself press and to stay.
Christine, we're going to move on. We're going to find out what Ed Lascos is up to, because there's more reaction to ongoing ICE raids in other places, protests, and now military moving into Southern California. Some Orange County leaders are opposed to President Trump's order to send in more National Guard troops, and they have a message to local and federal law enforcement.
Is just some vehicles moving in from Homeland Security, some of the immigration officers, and what you have then is a long line of the National Guard members cutting a gauntlet through the protesters to escort those vehicles out. But we're right here in the Civic Center Plaza where all of this exploded last night, as you were saying, Susan. A lot of remnants all over Santa Ana Boulevard here of some of the rubber bullets and other projectiles that all happened. You can see some of the roadways Joe gives you a look, all marked up here. This is where they had the tear gas flying last night when the protests, some 200 strong, couple hundred strong, protested, and as nightfall came, it erupted into violence and face-to-face confrontation with law enforcement. That's a long line there of, if you can see them, Santa Ana police and some of the National Guard members escorting some of those vehicles right across the path of the protesters down there as they're lined up. Several dozen protesters in this area right in front of the federal building here of the Civic Center Plaza. That's over to the right-hand side. Joe will give you a look at that. And all you have in front of the federal building, as you can imagine is National Guard members, and they're protecting this building, the Immigration Center. It's just down the block from the Ronald Reagan Federal Courthouse, another target of the protesters last night where all of this unfolded. Talking about what happened last night, let's get to that video. Wild scene here. They had arrests, dozens of arrests after a face-to-face confrontation. The tear gas in the air, the rubber bullets, the fireworks being thrown, as we're told, and other projectiles from the demonstrators at the line of police. All of this as that protest unwinded through the day, and then as the evening came, it just erupted into violence, so much so there was a press conference here a little while ago, a couple of hours ago, actually, law enforcement, but also the local lawmakers, county supervisors, saying if you want this violence to end, and we all do, as one of the supervisors was saying, the best way to have it end is to take all the military, all the National Guard members, all the U.S. Marines, and we haven't seen any Marines deployed in this area yet, but the supervisor saying get the military out of Santa Ana. Listen to some of this.
This morning, we heard from our district attorney
Their job is to protect and serve. So there's a huge difference in the mission, but also local law enforcement can do something the Marines can't do. They can arrest people, and they can enforce the law, and that's why you won't see Marines being used in a law enforcement role here.
And the Pentagon saying the estimated cost of sending the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles, $134 million. Live in Seal Beach, Rob McMillan, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Rod, thank you. Let's get quickly up to Air 7 with Chris Christie. It appears the crowd has started to move. Is that correct, Chris?
Not really. They're pretty much standing their ground there on the overpass, right at the detention center. You can see LAPD with the skirmish line continuing to keep them kind of boxed in here. I'm sorry. Say again, Robbie. Gotcha. There's another group that is on the move coming down, I think, Main Street.
Birthday, just as other failed dictators
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to let the
peaceful. They're out there marching, talking